remember the days where I would steal my brother's copy of Black Ops and play for hours, getting called every racial slur under the sun while being camped by some trash-talking 9-year-old. But recently it feels like Call of Duty is just given up. Like an addict with his pipe, Call of Duty is just sucking the franchise for every last shot they can get, made apparent by this crime against shooters. I split this video into 3 parts, including a brief history of Call of Duty, current games being worse than my KD, and why this downfall is happening. To understand the recent decline, I'm gonna have to take you back in time. The year is 2003, and the name Call of Duty meant about as much as a Logan Paul apology video. Back then, the games were simple, where bullets were not made of lasers and you didn't need to have 300 attachments to stay in the meta. The original games redefined the FPS genre, securing them at the top of the gamer food chain. The most notable of these being Modern Warfare 1, Modern Warfare 2, not you, and Black Ops. It was clear that the modern setting worked for the franchise because they would later release Modern Warfare 1, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 2, Modern Warfare 3, and Modern Warfare 3. But more on that later. Life was good. You could spend hours behind a screen getting destroyed by some 9-year-old with a gamer tag like XX_ the dark sniper X_XX. And even to this day, you can hear the faint cries of the old Modern Warfare lobbies.
I'm a pussy that use riot shield.
But something would happen. The stories would become drier than the Sahara, and the meta felt like you were one more quickscope away from a broken controller. So what happened? Well, fast forward to today, and what do we have? An identity crisis. I mean, just look at the most recent game. Like an edgy teen, Call of Duty can't seem to decide what they want to do. A big reason for this colossal failure is the fact that it was intentionally supposed to be an expansion pack. But the evil overlords at Infinity Ward decided, nah, let's make it a full game. And I bet you'll never guess why.
Money!
Which brings me to my next point. The microtransactions. Woo, yeah! Infinity Ward has perfected the art of monetization. It's like they're having a one-sided competition with Fortnite to see who can have the most collabs. Only instead of cool relevant skins like John Wick, we instead get Nicki Minaj. Call me a hater, I don't care. I just don't think that some of these skins really fit in the theme. Like, at all. But that's besides the point. It seems that lately they are just desperate to try and force feed us the newest game, with releases feeling less like a treat and more like a punishment. I'm gonna put on my conspiracy cap and give you a true game theory. The only reason anyone ever played Cold War and Vanguard is because Activision added their guns to the Warzone roster and made them jacked. Meaning, if you wanted to stay in the meta without getting beamed by some triad, you would have to force yourself to play Vanguard multiplayer. Truly a fate worse than death. I don't even want to talk about the recent campaigns. I mean, they're all about as deep as a paper cut, but oh well. For the sake of content, I forced myself to play them. And long story short, it's as if they just hired a guy to watch a top 10 epic cool guy moments video on YouTube, whacked it into a poorly told story, and whacked a $60 price tag on that bad boy. They really tried to hide it underneath shiny graphics and thought we wouldn't notice. And then there's Warzone. The only good thing to come out of the Battle Royale trend, and they ruined it. I'm actually astonished by how much they fumbled with this. They had a multi-million-dollar idea, and then decided to paper shred it for the sake of a quick buck. But don't worry guys, Warzone 2 is coming out. I'm sure that'll be good. I won't bore you with the nitty-gritty details, just know that a plethora of cheaters, poor map design, and broken weapons played a huge role in Warzone's downfall. Stepping off the hate train, let's now talk about the why. I'm gonna need to be real with you. The first problem was the yearly releases. Sure, it was cool getting a new COD every year, but there's only so many times I can eat a steak before it starts to taste like horse meat. It was doomed to fail from the start. Like, what do you expect? I mean, it's difficult for developers to keep a game fresh when they've already done everything. My problem is that if they took a little extra time to create a well-polished game instead of cranking out unfinished garbage, then maybe we would have something to write home about. It also really bugs me that you can spend what feels like an eternity grinding out one game just to have the new one released a few months later. That master camo you spent months getting? Yeah, that's gone. You know how they say teamwork makes the dream work? For Call of Duty, that's not the case. To say there's too many cooks in the kitchen would be an understatement. I mean, it's gone from Sledgehammer to Treyarch to Infinity Ward. There's just too many developers. An example of this would be that 1 second you can be in space with jetpacks that make me want to eat my own fist, and then the next you're storming the beaches of Normandy. Call of Duty has just lost all sense of direction and have basically said, screw it, we ball, and are now hell-bent on releasing any game which just has guns. Another big problem is trend chasing. I mean, they released 3 Battle Royales. This is by far the biggest problem with Call of Duty right now, as developers are so focused on trying to make the game good for everyone that they end up making it good for no one. A game cannot be good if everyone is happy. My final point before I move on is that Call of Duty is just plain old. It's not as relevant anymore and it just lacks anything new. To finish this off, I want to talk a little about Black Ops 6. Now, obviously, there's not much that can be said about this game other than the fact that developers have somehow gone from racist lobbies to downright creepy ones.
Please let me go. I'm sorry, please.
Yeah. In all seriousness though, from what I could find, the skill curve is actually really difficult this time around, which I'm all for. Now, I never played the beta, so I can't really have an opinion. Instead, I'd recommend you watch this video if you want to know more about it. One thing I do know though, is that the Omni movement is definitely a game changer, and I'm looking forward to seeing how it plays out. Now, zombies. In my opinion, the best thing to ever happen to Call of Duties. The biggest question being, will it be good? Aside from the Pack-a-Punch skin looking like baked beans, COD Zombies looks promising. And before you all take to the comments talking about how the new map looks more like a multiplayer map than a survival horror, Treyarch has recently announced on their podcast that they'll be changing the atmosphere to make it a bit more gloomy. So, credit where credit is due. Treyarch has actually listened to the community feedback. I also like the look of the new zombie variants. We got spiders, diabetics, and whatever this failed abortion is. I will always miss the OG zombie games, but I do actually have a glimmer of hope for BO6. Just a little bit. Overall, I'd say be careful when buying BO6. In my professional opinion, I believe you should hold off and wait before you buy. But I know and you know that you definitely ain't gonna do that. It's the curse of a COD player after all. Before I end this video, I want to talk about whether or not there's any hope for COD. Spoiler alert, no. I can sit here and talk about how they're making all these changes, but the reality is, developers just don't seem to care anymore. They know that people will buy their games no matter what. It's all about milking the franchise for every last drop, and it's working. COD has to be the biggest scam since crypto. If the devs really want to improve the franchise, I have a few suggestions. Number 1, please, for the love of all that is drop-shotting, spend more time on the games. I'm getting bored of playing this undercooked slop. Number 2, have some variety, damn. There's nothing fun about playing a reskin of a game with ever so slight graphic improvements. And number 3, finish the damn Chaos story! That's all I ask. Please, Treyarch, my mind has been blue-balled. I want to know how it ends. With all that being said, thank you for watching. I really appreciate you for listening to me yap this whole time. If you have any spare change, I would greatly appreciate it. I want to hit 500 subs by the end of this year, and any sort of feedback you can give will be greatly appreciated. Bye bye!